2025. It is 6:30 p.m., and that means it's time to start our regular meeting of the Catalina Foothills School District Governing Board. On behalf of the board, I want to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting. Members of the public are attending both in person and remotely through YouTube Live. In a few minutes, I'll read the rules of order for public comment at governing board meetings. If you wish to make a comment remotely, you should have signed up using the Google form that's available under the YouTube Live description. If you don't see the link to the Google form to speak, you can refresh the YouTube live stream. If you're attending in person, there is a purple form that looks like this, request to address the governing board, that's available at the table in the front of the room where you signed in. Please go ahead and fill that out. I don't have any at the moment, so if anyone here does wish to make a public comment this evening, please fill out that form and hand that to Ms. Sams, our board secretary. There is a public hearing this evening, isn't there?
No, that was last time.
Oh, I apologize. Take that back. There's no public meeting, so I won't tell you what happens in that event. At this time, I'd ask everyone to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rules of order for public comment at governing board meetings. The governing board welcomes public comments at its meetings by providing 2 opportunities for the public to address the board. If your topic of interest is not on the agenda, you may address the board during the public comments time slot near the beginning of the meeting. Or if the topic is on the agenda, you may speak just prior to the discussion of that agenda topic. If you're joining remotely and wish to make a public comment, you should have already submitted the Google form provided with the YouTube link. And for those attending in person, again, you would use that purple form to indicate your intent to speak this evening. Speakers will be called on when it is your turn to address the board. For those attending remotely, you may choose to enable your camera. As a reminder, remote attendees who wish to speak, please unmute your microphone when you're called upon. Each speaker has 3 minutes to address the board. The sound of a buzzer indicates the end of your 3 minutes. In the event of a large number of speakers, the board may need to limit that time so that we can conduct the business on the agenda. By law, the board cannot discuss, consider, or vote on topics that are not on the agenda. This assures the community that they are aware of the topics that will be discussed this evening. If you wish to discuss a topic through written communication, board members' contact information can be found on the district's website. We appreciate the community's attendance and comments at this meeting. Thank you. Item 1.4 on our agenda is outstanding achievements. And to present those, I call upon Dr. Bartlett.
Yes, thank you. We have many achievements to recognize tonight, starting with our CFHS Change of Pace Choir. In February, they traveled with Mr. Evans, the director, to Flagstaff to compete in the Jazz and Madrigal Festival, hosted by the Northern Arizona University. It was a 3-day festival, and it featured over 100 choirs from more than 100 schools, with participants from California, Nevada, Utah, and Arizona. So it was a large competition. In both the jazz and the madrigal categories, Change of Pace earned Superior, the highest possible rating. And they performed at both the Audrey Auditorium and the Epiphany Church in Flagstaff, and they were adjudicated by Professor Emeritus Bruce Rogers and Professor Matthew Myers. So the names of all of the choir members will be in our border tomorrow, as well as all of the names of all of the people, the students that we're going to recognize tonight. Our second outstanding achievement is our National Merit finalists. All 7 of our National Merit semifinalists have advanced to finalist status in the National Merit Scholarship Program. It's a remarkable accomplishment that's unheard of, and it reflects their academic excellence, dedication, and perseverance. I will read these names because there's only 7, and it's pretty phenomenal. Joseph Drexler, Fox Foster, Sarah Christina Nielsen, Nile Patel, Carson Ruiz, Tali Suzoke, and Brian Zhang. So each finalist was presented with a certificate of merit from the National Merit Scholarship Corporation in recognition of their outstanding achievement. So the final selection process is underway with approximately 6,870 merit scholarship winners to be chosen from the pool of more than 15,000 finalists. So we wish all of our finalists good luck, and we hope we are going to report some winners here in the next few months. Our next outstanding achievement is our Palm Line. So our Palm Line has been very busy. They went to the USA Spirit Nationals held in February in Anaheim Convention Center. We applaud their dedication, countless hours of practice, and passion for excellence. Their coach, Cameron Reese, and the athletes demonstrated exceptional skill, teamwork, and sportsmanship on the national stage. We congratulate these student athletes and Coach Reese. And then on February 22nd, the high school Palm Line captured first place win in the varsity Palm division at the Pink State Championship. So the private tournament was held at North Canyon High in Phoenix, and it marks an incredible streak for our senior athletes who have ended their high school careers as 4-time Pink State champions. Oh. Yeah. So we're incredibly proud of their achievements. Then we have varsity cheer, who also went to Anaheim to compete in the USA Spirit Nationals competition. And they competed in both all-girls stunt and varsity intermediate show cheer. And the all-girls stunt team placed 11th out of 41 teams. And our varsity show cheer put on a great show routine that truly modeled all the hard work and countless hours that they put in throughout the season. So we congratulate all of our varsity cheer as well as our Palm Line. Next is our boys soccer team. They received the AIA Sportsmanship Award, which is really a great honor, and it really speaks to our students' sportsmanship. So their boys soccer team has been selected to receive this year's AIA Soccer Sportsmanship Award. It's a prestigious honor that's presented annually by the AIA Association to the team in each conference that exemplifies the highest level of sportsmanship. And it's determined by the game officials, which is another important part because, you know, officials have a hard job, and so that we have shown the sportsmanship is a great accomplishment for us.
They see a lot of teams. Yeah.
Yes, they do see a lot of teams, yes. And the team received this award during halftime at this year's state championship game held on March 1st at Mesa High School. Our Model UN students had kind of they traveled to Washington, D.C. during the snowstorm.
Wow.
They actually, one day of their trip was canceled because they couldn't get out. So it was during that big snowstorm. But the Model UN Nation students showcased their skills on a global stage. It was held in Washington, D.C., and the event brought in together 3,000 students from across the United States and countries including South Africa, France, and Italy. Yeah, so they engaged in high-level debates on historical and contemporary global issues, demonstrating their diplomatic expertise and critical thinking. So beyond the competition, students immersed themselves in Washington, D.C.'s rich history and international presence as well. They toured the Embassy of Spain, explored the Smithsonian National Museum of American History, and visited iconic landmarks such as the Washington Monument, U.S. Capitol, and the White House. Again, all during the winter storms, okay? So, and next we have District and Pima County Spelling Bees. So our district is proud to celebrate the outstanding achievements of our students in this year's CFSD Spelling Bee. First place was Natasha Jane, a Ventana Vista Elementary 5th grader, and she advanced to represent CFSD at the Pima County Spelling Bee on February 15th. Second place went to Dominic Bays from Ventana Vista as well, and third place, Tien Lone Hot Patel, also from Ventana Vista. So they demonstrated perseverance, competing through 10 rounds and advancing to middle school level words. So we were very proud of them. We have our DECA state competition results as well. So the state DECA conference was held at the Arizona Grand Resort, and over 2,300 students from across the state competed in a highly competitive environment. Our high school students, under the guidance of business teacher Jason Reinhardt, demonstrated professionalism, dedication, and exceptional performance, with several students earning high placements and 7 qualifying for the International DECA competition, which will take place in Orlando, Florida from April 25th to the 30th. So, and then we also have students who will compete in the Arizona DECA state, demonstrating excellence and dedication. And then our CFHS DECA is under consideration for 3 spots in the highly competitive leadership training program at internationals, demonstrating the professionalism, sportsmanship, and leadership displayed by our students. So we're extremely proud of all of our DECA members, and it just highlights their incredible perseverance and hard work to compete at such a high level. And finally, we have our Tucson Festival of Books artist, and it's a Canyon View student, Ava Erlacher. She's a 4th grader, and she was selected in the Tucson Festival of Books Young Artist Competition. She created a painting of San Javier Mission at sunset. She will be honored alongside other winners at the Tucson Festival of Books on Saturday, March 15th.
Wow.
Yeah, lots of accomplishments.
Wait a list.
It's going to be a long border tomorrow. That's
It will
5
be a long
pages.
border with lots of names.
5 pages of
All
outstanding
of the names will appear in the border. So,
So clearly there's some impressive spelling going on at Ventana Vista Elementary
Yes.
School.
spelling bee, yes. I think, Julie, you were the, she was the word
Oh,
caller.
yeah?
It's it's kind of a pressure job to be the word caller. It is.
Thank you, Dr. Bartlett. It's always wonderful to hear of these outstanding achievements. And although not usually a short list, this one is exceptionally long.
It is.
And covers the range of activities. And we are so proud of our students and their faculty advisors, and also to parents who have to also, you know, feed the kids, clothe the kids, get them to school, get them to these activities, support the, you know, their activities and their passion. So it's a team effort. We appreciate it. Thank you for sharing that with us. Another wonderful agenda item that gives us an opportunity to share with the community a different kind of appreciation is our super volunteer recognition. And this evening, Board Member Tom Logue will be presenting a Super Volunteer Award to Catalina Buffum and, oh, am I in the wrong place? No.
You're right.
And Marcy, I panicked for a second. And Marcy Petty from Manzanita Elementary School. And they're also accompanied here by their principal, Rob Henigman. I'll turn it over to you, Tom.
Super volunteers, and truly cannot think of anyone more worthy of the title than tonight's honorees. We are here to celebrate Catalina Buffum and Marcy Petty for their many contributions to Manzanita Elementary. A little about their backgrounds. Catalina has been active on the Executive FFO Board for 5 years as the Mustang Bucks fundraising chair and volunteer coordinator, neither of which are easy jobs. Marcy has been active on the Executive FFO Board for 3 years as secretary and webmaster, also not a cakewalk. Those are their official roles, but their actual involvement goes so much further. And anyone who has spent time volunteering knows 2 facts. One, that a lot of things, really great and wonderful and memorable things, only happen because someone is willing to show up, roll up their sleeves, and put in the work. And 2, most of that work, oftentimes the most essential work, is thankless, invisible work behind the scenes that most people aren't even aware of, but without those hours, nothing would happen. Catalina and Marcy always show up for that work. One of their fellow FFO board members said about them, in the 4 years that I've been at Manzanita, I don't think there's a single event that has happened without their help. That is not hyperbole. They are everywhere all the time, almost impossibly so, from the ice cream social at the beginning of the year to the 5th grade promotion in the spring and at everything in between. And by the way, even though we're here celebrating their contributions at Manzanita, they also both pop up over at Orange Grove from time to time, where each of them has a student, and I suspect it won't be long before they're spotted on the high school campus as well. Not only are they everywhere doing everything, but they do it so cheerfully. Some of their other FFO officers describe them as super kind and sweet, easy to talk to, fun to be around, always willing to volunteer their time and energy, even if they are busy, and two of the most amazing parents that Manzanita has ever had. From my own experience working with Catalina and Marcy at Manzanita for a couple years, I can vouch for every single one of these descriptions, and will also add that they are incredibly selfless and humble. Marcy was genuinely surprised when she heard she was being honored. Catalina needed some arm twisting to even show up tonight. Neither of them do this work for the accolades. They do it for Manzanita. And it's so fitting that when I asked each of them separately what their favorite Manzanita event was, they both said the Family Evening of the Arts and Culture, which I might add is a lot of fun to attend and a lot of work to pull off. But they both said it for the same reason. It's an event that brings together the entire school community, students, parents, teachers, and staff, to elevate the accomplishments of our students. And isn't that what volunteering is all about? So, Catalina, Marcy, on behalf of the Catalina Foothills School District, thank you. Thank you for showing up, for putting in the work, and for making a difference every day in the Manzanita community. Come on up, I want to present you a couple of things, and then I'm gonna ask Principal Hennickman to also come up and maybe embarrass you a little further. A little bit. So what I have for you, so that you can be also embarrassed in the privacy of your own homes, is the letters that Principal Hennickman wrote nominating you, along with your certificates of recognition. This is yours, Marcy, yours, and these tokens of our appreciation. These are keychains. They are also kind of like secret signs, you know, when you're in the grocery store and you see someone in front of you with one, you kind of look at them and go, they got you too, huh? Principal Hennickman?
I just want to say that this nomination, it doesn't just come from me. It comes from our entire school community. And, you know, I've had the opportunity and the pleasure to truly work with you over the last, 8 to 9 months, transitioning into Manzanita. And it was funny and ironic all at the same time, but definitely pertinent to this conversation, because when Sherry and I were talking about, just who's the helper around here, who really is diving in, they mentioned, Sherry goes, oh, the dynamic duo, Catalina and Marcy. 30 seconds later, guess who comes walking up the sidewalk? You two. And I was like, okay, and so there, we were looking at all the different things that you two are involved in, and it's actually much easier. Well, it's super hard to find out what you're not involved in, right? Because you truly are. And I think one of the things that we all really appreciate, and I think it really epitomizes your help, is that you guys are the first ones to show up and the last ones to leave, and you truly are in everything. And I think that shows just your dedication to our school community and to our greater district. And so on behalf of the entire Manzanita community and staff and CFSD, thank you for everything.
We're going to give them a moment to take some photos before we move on to our consent agenda. Thank you so much. both for all that you do. Thank you, Mr. Hennickman. Thank you, Tom, for the wonderful presentation. Item 2.0 on our agenda is the time set aside for public comments. I did not receive any purple forms, and I do not see anybody signed up to speak remotely. So that brings us then to the consent agenda. Does any board member have an item that they wish to pull for further discussion? Hearing none, I will ask for a motion.
Okay, I keep getting caught unawares.
No problem.
Sit. Have to make that much bigger. All right. I move that the governing board approve consent agenda items 3.1, the governing board February 25th, 2025, regular meeting minutes as presented. 3.2, the expense voucher memorandum as presented. 3.3, the field trip request memorandum as presented. 3.4, fundraising request memorandum as presented. 3.5, the personnel memorandum as presented. 3.6, the acceptance with gratitude of the gifts and donations memorandum as presented. 3.7, the award of RFP 25-2-30, District Pest Control and Termite Services, a one-year contract with the option to renew for 4 additional years to Essential Pest Control Incorporated with an estimated annual cost of $15,454.64 as presented. 3.8, the addition of LRP publications to the sole source vendor list for 2024-25 as presented. And 3.9, the School Facilities Division Award to Tallinn Mechanical for the replacement of an air conditioner unit at Manzanita Elementary School in the amount of $17,099 as presented.
I just want some clarification. It says Canyon View.
Canyon View. Is it Canyon View or Manzanita? I know it's the same thing. Hang on. Let's just make sure we have the
interesting.
right.
It
It
says
says
Canyon View. It says Manzanita in
it
the
does, in the board book.
in the board book in the motion. So let me just repeat the motion for 3.9.
Please.
The School Facilities Division Award to Tallinn Mechanical for the replacement of an air conditioner unit at Canyon View Elementary School in the amount of $17,099 as presented. Good.
Thank you. There's been a motion. Is there a second? There's been a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay. Moving on to new business is item 4.1, the approval of non-renewable teacher contracts. This agenda item is presented by Associate Superintendent Mindy Westover. If you could please give us a little bit of background and context for this motion.
Sure.
Thank you.
So for your approval, attached is a list of teachers whose contracts will not be renewed for the 25-26 school year. And the reason for the non-renewal, the employees will receive a hand-delivered notice tomorrow that advises them that the governing board action not to renew their employee contract. And I've also attached the sample notice of the letter that they will receive. And can I take any questions?
So this is this is an annual non-renewal. So any teacher, for the reasons listed on the letter, we do a non-renewal with the expectation that most of them will be hired back. It's our way of ensuring that we are not overstaffed. And so we do a non-renewal, and then we give them the letter, hand-delivered, and usually the principal at that time lets them know, yes, I intend to hire you back. You'll be on the next governing board meeting agenda as a rehire. Most of these people will be rehired.
And they will know when they receive this letter
Yes,
that they are likely to be rehired.
yes.
So,
And so the people on this list are first-year teachers,
First-year teachers.
teachers who are funded through a grant program, Part-timers, trying to remember the other categories.
Retirees.
And
There are 8 of them. If they were hired after September 1st,
Right.
the late hires. It was a temporary position, so if it was a temporary position, they would be. But then again, it's part-time funding, first year to the district. Failure to maintain their Arizona certification, so because we are in a different time with teacher certification and we have people getting alternative certifications, we sometimes give them just the 1-year contract on a classified instructor contract, and those would be non-renewed as well. And then the retirees. So there were 8 reasons.
so again, it's for budget flexibility because we're in the middle of enrollment right now. We don't know how many students we're going to have next year. So in these categories, I think even when they sign their contracts, they understand that their contracts are a 1-year
Correct.
contract.
Yes.
We don't renew them as a matter of fiscal responsibility, because if we don't get the enrollment, we can't afford to bring them all back. The hope and the dream and what's normally happening is we do get our enrollment, hopefully we get our enrollment plus some, and we'll be able to go back to these people relatively quickly. There's not like months between this non-renewal and hiring them back, but once we know we have the numbers, then we can fill them all back in. So it's really, I don't want to say it's a formality because we are not renewing their contracts, but it's designed to help us be flexible in our budgeting process and to make sure that we don't overspend our budget.
Correct.
Nobody likes to make the motion.
Any other questions?
We always make the new
New people have to make the motion. Nobody likes to, one of you is making the motion and one of you is
One of you
seconding.
seconding it.
Welcome to the board.
That's right. Thank you so much. I move the governing board vote to not renew for school year 2025-26 the employment contracts of the employees listed, and I further move that the governing board authorize the superintendent or designee deliver to those listed a notice of governing board action not to renew employment contract. The notifications are incorporated into this motion and become part of the meeting minutes.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you for that explanation. And agenda item 4.2. Castro's already coming to the podium, is approval of amendment to the high school academic recognition process for 2025-2026. This is on this evening for an action item. Typically, we don't see action items once. We typically have 2 readings before we act on an item. This is an item that we had previously approved of, but with some information that needed to be clarified. So that's the reason it's on this evening. For an action item, it's actually something we've already heard twice, but with a little bit of a correction.
Yeah, clarified is a kind way to put it. Corrected is what it is. I made a couple of mistakes that I need to first apologize for, having to bring this to you a second time because of 2 statements that I made that were inaccurate. So you will recall that you approved this program on January 28th at that board meeting, but I gave out 2 pieces of information that weren't accurate, therefore we're presenting it to you now so that you have accurate information for this second vote. So on page 41 of your board packet, you'll see the current program eligibility criteria for the academic awards program in effect this year for 24-25. They're stated correctly as they were stated correctly in the board memo, but I made the statement that was incorrect about the bullet highlighted in yellow. That's bullet 3. Students must have a weighted 4.0 GPA for each of the first 3 quarters of the school year as identified on the school calendar. I had said incorrectly that the criteria was for the last semester of freshman year and the first semester of sophomore year. That was incorrect, and it's different than what's listed in the course guide and on the board memo. So that was one of the pieces of information that was incorrect. If you turn to page 42 of the board packet, you'll see the new proposal for academic letter program for changes in the coming school year in 2025-2026. That was reported correctly as stated, as it's written here, with the option for the silver award at 4.0 or above weighted GPA, the blue award at 3.75 to 3.99 weighted GPA. Students in grades 9, 10, and 11 have to be enrolled in the 6 classes. Eligibility is determined, this is the biggest change, was determined by averaging the students' first and second semester GPAs in the same academic year. That was the change that most people were excited about. And the student can earn the distinction in all grades 9, 10, and 11. And then there'll be a celebratory event at the beginning of the school year. They'll be notified in the summer of their eligibility, and then they'll be invited to an event at the beginning of the school year. Seniors, as always, in grade 12 will be recognized in May at a ceremony with either the blue award or the silver award. So that was correct, that piece. The changes that we proposed for the new award that's coming up in 25-26 were meant to reduce confusion that students and families have about which semesters count for eligibility in a given grade. Again, I had stated that it was the second semester and the first crossing over school years, and that was incorrect. Additionally, at the January meeting, I stated that, quote, freshman year essentially doesn't count, close quote, toward the eligibility requirement for academic recognition. What I should have said was to provide clarification that because of all the confusion that surrounds the academic award program, many students hold misperceptions about what counts and what doesn't. If only the first 3 quarters are counted toward the award, there's a misperception that the last quarter of the year doesn't count. And that's what we wanted to do away with. So again, I apologize for causing the board to have to vote again on this, what should have been a very simple item. And I'm hoping that you can approve the proposed change for our high school academic recognition process for 2025-2026.
Jill, thank you for bringing this back to us. I really
Oh, thank you.
appreciate it. I appreciate the clarifications.
So is it I should have asked this 2 times ago, but so is it the case that if they're receiving the award, so they finish a whole academic year before? So all
You're talking about the new upcoming,
the new-
new one for 25-26.
so everything counts.
Everything
It's not-
counts. There's
okay.
going to be no
Right.
misperception.
That
It's
makes
going to be
sense.
first semester and
Yes.
second semester, cumulative average together. And so there's no misperception about things not counting.
And there's nothing different about the change. It was just the underlying information
Correct.
that you're correcting.
Yeah, the printed information that you had was correct. What I said was incorrect.
Gotcha.
Yes. But words matter.
Yes, they do.
No, we do appreciate you coming back to us. Are there any other questions or any other clarification needed of Ms. Castro while she's here?
Make a motion if you're ready.
Sure, thank you.
I move the governing board approve the high school academic awards program as presented for implementation in 2025-2026 school year.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Hearing a motion and a second, all those in favor of approving item 4.2, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Oh, any opposed? Sorry. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Again, my
Thank
apologies.
you for coming. It's
Appreciate
okay,
you.
it's okay. Thank you for coming back.
Can I do what you're doing?
What are we doing?
A minute to set up.
We're setting up, okay. And now, I'd like to think that you were all here for, the opening, the consent agenda, new business, but
Well, they all received personal invitations,
and
so.
we appreciate you being here. So the big item for the evening, not that they're not all important, is our next item on the agenda, which is under our discussion and reports category. Item 5.1 is our listen and learn presentation. It will be presented by Dr. Bartlett, but also with our Director of Communications, Julie Farberg, and Tracy Benson, the Waters Institute, who helped implement and the entire process. So I'm going to scoot over and let you take it from here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So the Listen and Learn, it was a structured discussion designed to foster open dialogue, active listening, and shared learning. So it was an opportunity for me to hear from our constituents and our staff about their aspirations, their perspectives on things in the district, and the key issues that impact CFSD. So it was a great opportunity. By engaging in the listening and learn sessions, every participant contributed. It wasn't just they talked and I listened, they were talking to each other and I listened in. But they contributed to a culture of continuous learning and meaningful connection. And they helped, their participation is going to help drive positive change for us, both individually and collectively. So I want to thank all of the members who are here tonight who have participated, but I want to thank all of the members who also participated. We're going to talk to you about the numbers of participants, and like we talked today, it was a very thorough process that really engaged our community as well as our staff, our whole staff, teachers and our classified staff in this process. So this was part of the 100-day plan that I proposed during the interview process to become the superintendent. There were, we wanted to have this active listening so that we could build empowering relationships. These are the 3 goals that we had, really. Soliciting the voices of others so that we have a shared meaning of success and what it will take to attain it. We wanted to understand the perspectives, experiences, and aspirations of our staff and our parents. What do they expect for their children in our district, and what do they want to see us? And then it was going to inform the superintendents and the district's priorities. We wanted to hear the direction that we're moving. Does that align with the direction that they have? So community engagement is really kind of the cornerstone of our work in CFSD. So we have really worked hard since July 1, when I took office, is to really build on that community engagement to understand the aspirations and the direction for our district.
Tess, can you hear me okay? So first of all, I just really want to thank you all for having me here, and also for trusting me in being able to create the conditions and the design for the Listen and Learn Tour. It was truly a wonderful career circle, because I have, many years ago, more than 2 decades ago, I believe, was the principal of Orange Grove. And so to be able to, and also helped open the high school. I was the interim freshman-only co-principal the 2nd semester of the high school when we were at Esperero. So it was truly one of those special moments. And when Julie and Denise, Dr. Rowley, first contacted me early last summer and described what, as a first superintendent, a new superintendent, how can we really hear what people value about our district, what things we want to keep, and what dreams we have for our students. And so they contacted me. We didn't even know one another very well at all. And I said, if you want a person that's going to stand in the front and chart down what people say, I can't do that. We've really got to create a different kind of atmosphere. And so you can see in the photo, we transformed, we transformed at each site. We had 12 different sessions, a whole cafe setting. The World Cafe methodology originated in 1995. Juanita Brown and David Isaacs were organizational development facilitators and kind of experts in that methodology of bringing people together. We're hosting something at their house, just a social event, and it rained, and it was supposed to be outside, and they had small tables all outside. So they brought them all inside. All their guests sat at tables of 4 or 5, And instead of wandering around with cocktails like talking, people actually sat at tables and had a dialogue. And that's where the World Cafe methodology was born. So I shared that with them, and what if we took that methodology that is pretty casual and create more structure so that we can capture the key insights, the ideas, the responses to important questions on paper, and to be able to use those items that were actually color-coded on Post-its to be able to collect it, look for the red threads. What is the community staff saying? And that led to the report that you were given and the themes we're going to go over today. The table questions and rounds are up there in the red box. I'm not going to read them, but a person that participated would have started at one table with 4 to 6 people, varied in size depending on the site and the numbers, and then would move to another table if they weren't a table host for questions 2A and 2B, and then move to another table for the third round. So in 1 hour, had meaningful connections with about 15 to 20 people. And oftentimes, I would say 99% of the time, met people they'd never met before. And so I said to Dr. Bartlett, this is very courageous for a new superintendent, because we don't know what we're going to, had no prediction, came in with no idea of what exactly was going to happen or what was going to be said. And yet you'll be seeing some of the feedback was the value of not just learning, of Dr. Bartlett learning from people, but of people learning from one another. And the time invested, I'll have to tell you, is huge. It was 2 weeks that were heavy, heavy duty. And so as a launch, as a foundation for the work that you're going to do in setting goals for this district, maintaining the integrity and excellence that you have, and to look at some specific actions based on what we heard, I mean, that's going to take time. So I want to give, this is my advice, of working with school districts all over the country, that change takes time. You know, and so that's going to be really important in deciding this. So, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to throw some numbers at you here. As Tracy mentioned, we did 12 listen and learn sessions. We actually did them over 11 days. We were wondering why we were tired. So the staff sessions were scheduled during the late start and early release times, and we invited all staff at the school, not just certified staff. And then for parents, we had 2 sessions, one in the morning and one in the evening. And we really didn't know how many parents would want to show up. We knew we could accommodate about 100 between the 2 sessions. So what we decided to do was we took our list of 6,500 contactable parents. We put them in an Excel spreadsheet, and then I found a random number generator and assigned every name a random number, and then I sorted those names by the random numbers. And then I consulted with Denise, how many people do you think we should invite? So we started with 500, not knowing how many would come. And that didn't fill up the session, so we invited the next 500 on the list, and that didn't fill it up, so then I invited the next 800. And so finally we reached capacity for the 2 sessions. So the total in-person participation between all of the sessions was 471 attendees, which was reflected in 110 discussion tables. So all of these small group conversations were happening, and those generated 3,049 Post-it notes. The largest session was at the high school for the staff, and that was 97 participants over 20 tables, and then that generated 458 responses. And then for our parent and family sessions, We had one on September 17 for 27 participants and 7 tables, and then September 19 we had 37 participants and 10 tables. And we're very grateful for our parents who are here tonight, who all participated in those in-person sessions. But we recognized that not everybody could attend one of those sessions, and of course we could only invite 1,800. So then we also had a survey open, and all families were invited to fill out the survey, and then we created a separate survey for staff as well to capture any staff who couldn't attend the school sessions that we held. So we had 20 staff members respond to the survey, and we had, let me see, 75 parents respond to the survey. So fairly small participation rates. For parents, that's a 1.1% participation rate. For staff, it was 2.5% participation rate. But we felt it was really important to make this inclusive and really make sure anybody who wanted to participate had an avenue to do so. Now, Tracy's going to talk about some of those findings.
Okay, so the findings were as a result of a qualitative analysis of every single one of those Post-its. So raw data sheets were created from those Post-its by question, and there were basically 3 analyses, one that was based on each session, and then we took level analysis. So if you look at each of those colored boxes, one level was pre-K and elementary, so including all of the sites, Valley View, Manzanita, Sunrise, Ventana Vista, and Canyon View. All of the Post-it data from those sites were conducted a qualitative analysis and looked for those patterns, those red threads, not just based on words, but on meanings of those words. And so it was very time intensive. But yet, here's some, some of the findings. For pre-K elementary was focusing on reducing class size and also increasing support staff. That was a theme that was pretty pervasive in all of those sites. And then also a strong emphasis on social emotional learning and safe environments. And so that's for pre-K elementary. Middle and high school were combined, so the 2 middle schools and the 1 high school, and brought in electives and career-ready pathways. I remember one specific career-ready pathway that had to do with, like, can we emphasize public speaking and, looking at what are the things that would be important for career readiness. So that area was one. And then, again, mental health resources and support for staff, kind of connected to that social emotional aspect of teaching and learning. And then consistency between schools, consistency in processes, expectations, and so on. So that was in the blue box. Parents and family, stronger communication about curriculum, wanting to know what's going on there and what's being taught, and safety protocols. And that, remember that this happened right after the security issues. I mean, what was it, 4 days at Orange Grove? 4 days after. So, so safety, especially from the parent group, had came up. And then clearer behavioral expectations for discipline. And then lastly, and by the way, surveys were incorporated in all these levels. So if you were, a middle school teacher or classified person from middle school, you would be in that blue box. So those surveys were incorporated into the analysis of each of those levels. MAC staff and pre-K 12 administrator team, we pulled those together. Those were two specific sessions. And the themes there were staff development, support staff development, and retention, not just of teachers, retention of employees, well-being, and an inclusive culture to maintain the quality of all of those. And then to enhance communication and streamline processes and update operation practices.
Can I ask a question, or do you want me to save?
Go ahead.
Questions. And I'm sorry to interrupt your flow. So I have a question about something about a shared understanding of the language that you're using. And I'm thinking, for example, about social emotional learning, which is a phrase that can mean something different to different people. So is that, the use of that phrase here, your usage that you pulled from what you were hearing, or was it the actual words that were written down? And if the latter, how do we know that people who use those words were referring to the same things?
And that's a really good question, because words matter, right? So I heard you say that earlier. And so one of the parts of the analysis was taking acronyms and making sure that those were in words so that the analysis could be clear. So SEL was oftentimes written on Post-its. Social emotional learning was oftentimes written on Post-its. Emotional health was written. So it wasn't that one term, it's a qualitative category that I wouldn't define and needs definition. I mean, that's part of what needs to happen in terms of this next steps. These need definition. And the nice thing is that each of the administrators have the data from their sessions. So that wouldn't be my job as the researcher. And so, really good question, though. Thank you for that.
Yeah, but it was taken from the actual, they did use all those terms. We didn't provide those terms to them. And we know that because of COVID, we do have some shared understanding of what SEL means, especially as a staff, especially as parents. You know, we do have some shared understanding, but you're right, it does need to be further peeled away to understand exactly what that means. So now we'll go into the district key themes, and we do have 7 of them. And our first one was to enhance personalized learning and individualized support. Now these are in no specific order, these are just, we also have, they want promote rigorous academic standards and career-ready skills. We want to encourage transparent communication and active family engagement. Cultivate a safe, inclusive, and supportive school environment. Strengthen teacher support, retention, and professional development. So you can see from those four groups that she presented earlier, you're hearing the terms because it's coming from those themes as well. We want to modernize facilities and resources to support diverse learning needs. And we want to foster community engagement and build a cohesive school culture. So what we're going to do is we're going to take each of the themes, and we'll talk a little bit about what that theme kind of means, what we heard from the participants as far as what they meant when they said that, and then I'll go through each and let you know what are some things that we have already been doing or that we did in response to what we heard. So some of the things we had already been doing prior to even hearing this information, but some things, because of what we heard, we took action already. So we'll go each one by one. So our first one is this cultivate a safe and inclusive environment. Of course, ultimately the environment empowers students to reach their full potential. So the environment matters, and it prepares them for a diverse and collaborative world. So this cultivate a safe, inclusive, supportive environment. We want it where the teachers and peers encourage one another. They foster resilience, empathy, and a strong sense of community. So this is what our participants indicated what it meant to cultivate an inclusive and supportive environment. Again, that's social emotional learning, mental health resources, anti-bullying measures to support students' emotional well-being, and then reinforcing those consistent behavior protocols to ensure that safe, inclusive spaces for all students. So, and then here are some of the things that we have already been doing. So you've approved the increase of counseling services for our students. So we've increased that. That was during the pandemic, and we have maintained that staffing level even coming out of the pandemic. We have expanded social emotional learning programs and mental health resources for our students. We've adopted the Centegix crisis alert system in response. We've initiated the comprehensive threat assessment guidelines training for all of our administrators and counselors. And we hired a security specialist to work with our sites to standardize our emergency operation plans. So we've taken some actions already, but this cultivating a safe, inclusive, supportive environment, again, it's important to note when we were collecting this information, it occurred right after the school threat. So that was very high on everybody's mind. So, any questions about that one?
Do you have any reason though to believe that it wouldn't have arisen anyway? I mean, I would think that this still would have emerged as a key theme, just given the state of
Very
schools.
possibly could have, but I think it was even more heightened because of
Yeah.
the timing. But no, I don't have any reason to believe that it wouldn't, because this is the time we're in.
Exactly.
This is the time we're in.
Yeah.
And so I do think it probably would have, maybe not to the level it did, but I think it would have been a theme. I think you're right.
Denise, that first bullet point with expanding social emotional learning programs and mental health resources. What does that look like? Is that the increased counseling staff, providing lessons in the classroom?
Correct.
Doing small groups? Talk about that just
Well,
a little bit if you would.
If you remember, we had a redesign of our counseling program. And so during that, we have adopted new standards, with the ASCA standards. And so it is our counselors going into our classrooms and teaching those standards. And although the standards don't directly state social emotional learning, that's exactly what it is. But also our counselors having individual sessions as well as small group sessions to do some mental health and emotional learning programs with the students. But really it's our counseling staff and that increase of staffing that really has expanded those social emotional learning based on the standards. And
I have a question.
yep.
Can you explain what you mean by inclusive in this context?
Well, inclusive, I mean, it really means that all students, regardless of who they are or where they come from, are treated equal in our environments, regardless of their abilities, or their anything. They're all created equal, and they're treated equal in our schools. That's what we mean by inclusive. So the next one was fostering a community engagement and building a cohesive school culture. So, a strong school culture built on shared values and collaboration helps create a sense of belonging and pride for our students and staff. That sense of belonging is very important for our students, and you probably hear us talk about this sense of belonging quite a bit in our schools. And when we actively involve parents, local organizations, and community members, students benefit from the increased support, resources, and real-world learning opportunities. So the unity encourages respect and teamwork and a commitment to collective success, ultimately enhancing both the academic as well as personal growth for our students. So here's what our community and participants and our teachers said. They wanted to strengthen partnerships with local organizations and families to build a welcoming, inclusive school community, and create diversity through cultural events, community service initiatives, and active dialogue, fostering district culture that respects all values and backgrounds. So here are some of the things that we have done and will continue to do. We celebrate culture through cultural celebrations at the site level all the time. Lots of cultural celebrations, immersion celebrations with the Chinese cultural, with the Spanish immersion, but at every level they have different types of cultural celebrations. We do partner with local organizations to provide community service opportunities and student internships. Through our CTE program, student internships are an integral part of that pathway for the CTE program. And then, of course, here are just a few of the variety of events designed to foster connections between schools and our communities. The Falcon Fly-Ins, the Flyouts, the Fall Fling, the Panther Pride Day, the Manzanita Evening of the Arts, Ventana Vista's Popsta, and the Falcon Connections. These are just a few of some of the many opportunities and events that we have on our campuses that really try to bring our community in and our students together to build that unity and create that strong culture and sense of belonging to their school. We want kids to feel belonging to their school. The next one is that strengthen teacher support, retention, and professional development. We talk a lot about this. You know, we talk a lot about this. We have a foundation that is very supportive of us doing this, retaining our teachers and supporting our teachers, our new teachers. When teachers receive the resources and the mentorship and the encouragement they need, they're more effective in the classroom and more likely to stay in the profession. That's our goal. Retaining our experienced teachers, you know, we had the last 2 meetings, we looked at retention. It helps build consistency and strong relationships within our school community. And then that ongoing professional development ensures that teachers stay updated with best practices, new technologies, and innovative teaching strategies, ultimately improving our student outcomes. So here's what our participants thought about our teacher retention and professional development. Remain competitive in compensation, benefits, and support work-life balance measures to attract and retain. And then continue tailored professional development in areas like SEL, classroom management, and differentiated instruction to support the growth and job satisfaction. And here are some of the things that we have done. We have consistently increased teacher salaries since our salary freeze in 2008 to 2010. So we have consistently increased those salaries. We actually have the highest salary in Southern Arizona of all the districts in Southern Arizona. And that is a point of pride for us and something we monitor closely. We want to stay in the lead on that. Again, our CFSD Foundation provides financial support so that we're able to provide support to our new teachers with coaching and mentoring, which is a critical component of retaining our teachers. Those first 3 years are really critical to give them the support that they need so that they find success and enjoyment in their profession, and then they stay. We have dedicated personnel to provide professional learning to new and veteran staff. So we have a director of professional learning. We have 3 learning support specialists who provide coaching. And we provide teacher leadership opportunities in curriculum planning and assessment and design. So we offer those leadership opportunities for other teachers not in the unofficial professional learning role. Any questions on that one? Okay, then the next theme is promote rigorous academic standards and career-ready skills. So of course, high academic expectations challenge our students, you know, to think critically, solve complex problems, and develop a strong work ethic. We want to equip students with career-ready skills, of course, such as communication, collaboration, and adaptability, to ensure that they're prepared for both higher education or a career path that they're going to. And then by fostering both academic excellence and practical skills, we empower students to achieve their goals and contribute meaningfully to the society. So here's what our participants stated about that. We want to maintain our high academic standards with our comprehensive curriculum that prepares students for college, vocational paths, and real-world applications. And then strengthen those life skills, literacy, financial literacy, leadership, time management, to ensure that our students are well equipped. So it's, you know, we always talk about educating the whole child. That's what that means, not just the academic part, but those softer skills is what we call them sometimes. It's the leadership, it's time management, things like that. And then here are some things that we are already doing. So CFSD, we offer 23 advanced placement courses, which is a wide variety for students to choose from. Many students take multiple advanced placement, depending on their desires. We offer industry certifications, internships, and work-based learning through career technical education courses that align with the careers that students are interested in. So our CTE programs at the school are really designed for the interests of our students. The newest one that we implemented was that early childhood education, because there was an interest in our students for that program. So we also have our world languages and immersion programs that develop interculturality, and the number of students who are earning that seal of biliteracy is growing every year. So, And then we offer a wide variety of mathematics pathways that we just revised at the end of last year, so that we have students who can take a variety of pathways for mathematics depending on what their desires are after they leave us in CFSD. Any questions on that? Next one is enhanced personalized learning and individualized support. So this is where, provide students with hands-on learning opportunities, adaptive tools, and collaborative spaces that cater to different learning styles and ability. I'm sorry, wrong one. So we're tailoring instruction to each student's strengths, interests, and learning pace. It allows them to take ownership in their education. But personalized learning is for students who are struggling as well as students who are advanced, that they're both challenged appropriately. It's not one end of the spectrum, it's that all students are challenged appropriately. And ultimately, individualizing learning fosters deeper understanding, academic success, and lifelong learning skills. So this is what our participants said: reducing class size and provided targeted support through additional educational assistance and specialized staff, particularly for special education and advanced learners. So again, both spectrums. Ensure every student, regardless of ability, has access to the resources and opportunities they need to excel. And here's some of the things that we have done. We have reduced our class size in K-3. We've increased our staffing for gifted students and students with special needs. So this year we've increased our elementary gifted specialists. We had 2 that serviced the 4 schools. Now we have 1 at each school. We're adding Khan Academy and Khan Migo in grades 5 through 12 as a teaching assistant that students can use. We offer a Read Strong program for students who are significantly at risk for reading deficiencies. We also have the math lab support at the high school, and we have counselor-led small groups. And then, of course, we have a wide variety of after-school programs and clubs that create unique pathways from community schools to CTE. So lots of opportunities for those individualized pathways that interest students, but also meet their academic and social needs as well.
Denise, do you happen to have the numbers in mind about the class reduction sizes that have been made in K-3?
Yes, I do. So we used to have class sizes, I think kindergarten was 26 to 1, 26 students in a class. We reduced that to 23. First grade was up to 29, and we reduced that to 25. And second and third grade was at 29, and we reduced that to 26. So we want to encourage transparent communication and active family engagement. We want to maintain open and honest communication with families, parents and guardians to feel more informed and empowered to support their child's learning. Active family engagement strengthens the connection between the home and school, creating that supportive network, which we really need. And then by working together, educators and families can address challenges, they can celebrate progress, and create a positive educational experience that benefits the entire school community. So our participants wanted improved, consistent, transparent communications with families on student progress, safety protocols, and curriculum updates, and an open channel for feedback and collaboration, and then foster that family involvement through regular events, volunteer opportunities, which we celebrate here with our volunteers, and active partnerships that connect families with the district goals. Here are some of the things that we have implemented. So Parent Square is our new streamlined communication, and it's going gangbusters. It's getting better every time. I mean, we've learned a lot, especially we had to learn very quickly at the beginning in September, but we have learned how to really streamline that communication and get the communication out in a timely manner. We've hosted safety sessions at each site to engage parents in district-wide discussions about safety protocols at the schools. The CFSD regularly meets with the FFO and booster and foundation leaders. And then the schools host those family nights on specific parenting topics events like Coffee with the Counselors, so they can come in here. I know Esperero has one coming up on vaping. So we bring in guest speakers to engage our community into some of the challenges that they might be facing with their children. So.
And if I can just do a plug for Coffee with the Counselors, I went to a Coffee with the Counselors at Esperero Canyon.
Mm-hmm.
And it really gave me a great insight into what our enhanced counseling staff is doing for our kids. So if you have access to any of those Coffee with Counselors, I highly recommend you go. They're really, really talented people who are very invested in our kids. And gosh, they do a wonderful job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So modernizing our facilities and resources to support diverse learning needs. So of course, well-equipped schools provide students with hands-on learning opportunities, advanced adaptive tools, and collaborative spaces, right, that cater to different learning styles. Investing in modern facilities, of course, our facilities aren't brand new. Our schools are older, but we really do a nice job of maintaining. We are constantly looking at how to modernize our resources to ensure that every student has access to high quality education. So here are some of the things that our participants thought. We wanted to update and expand facilities to support a range of programs from arts and athletics to career and technical education, and then ensure that all students and teachers have access to current technology and library resources, creating a conducive learning environment that supports diverse needs and engagement. And here are some of the things that we've done. We've invested $5 million in security upgrades district-wide. We've constructed a new music building at CFHS, which is beautiful, and it's dedicated space for our growing orchestra and guitar programs, because students are very interested in that, and that dedicated space gives them that sense of belonging that we're not a group of add-on musicians. We are a group of musicians with a dedicated space. We made ongoing site improvements and upgrades at each site using bond dollars approved by our community, and that is ongoing. We will continue to issue bonds, and we will continue to upgrade our facilities. We have a list of every project that we want to complete with those bond dollars, and I have worked with the principals directly to go out and look at what are the priority projects that you have for your campus so that we can maintain our facilities to the level that we expect. We've also replaced 16 buses in our fleet this year, and plans to replace the next 13 with the next bond issuance. So we will have a whole new fleet of buses, which, you know, riding to school in a comfortable bus that's air conditioned and and doesn't rattle is important, right?
Rattling is fine if there's air conditioning.
Well, I don't know. When I rode the bus this at the beginning of the school year, that road between Cole and Sabino Canyon, when you're heading to Esperero and Canyon View, is pretty.
Yeah.
It rattles the bus pretty hard. So I think, you know, not rattling our buses will be a good thing. So.
Denise, when you talk about the fleet, is that all the 52 passenger buses, or does that include the?
It includes the
That's
80 passengers as well. So it's called Vision as well as Transit. So the Transit buses are the flat nose buses that have the larger capacity. I think there's 77 passengers. And then the Vision buses have the rounded nose, the rounded front, and I think those are more like 50 passengers.
Okay, so you're talking about the larger buses. You're not talking about vans and
No.
other types of vehicles that we have in our fleet that
No.
transport kids
We're
to.
also replacing those smaller buses as well. We are also replacing. Yes. But this is our fleet of student transportation. Yes.
Denise, the $5 million in security upgrades, that's before the strategic investment.
Yes, that's true.
Because there's been a considerable reinvestment in that bucket beyond the $5 million that we did in terms of infrastructure at all.
Correct. So the Centegics over a 5-year period is another $500,000.
$500,000.
Mm-hmm. So how do we move, you know, the whole listen and learn, these themes, we realize that, you know, we're on the same page with our participants, the feedback they gave us, that we're doing, you know, a pretty good job, but there's always room for improvement, right? So there wasn't anything that stood out that was a red flag that we had to move exactly right now. But how do we move from feedback to action? We want to integrate these themes into our strategic goals. So as we move forward, the projects that we're taking on, we need to look at these themes and integrate those. We've engaged our principals in site-specific work based on the feedback at their sites. But also, we've engaged them on the district's themes and how might, so at our last admin team meeting, we talked about, look at the themes, what are we already doing, what are some things we might consider doing? So we really used a brainstorming process so that we have more opportunities and more ideas on the table for how we might address some of these themes that we may not have thought of. So we're engaging our principals in that work as well. We want to provide regular updates to our staff and community, obviously, on this work. We want to expand the outreach for feedback to include students and alumni. Our goal next year is to hold this with our students in grades 5 through 12, and then the alumni as well. We really think the alumni can give us that perspective of, boy, that really prepared me for this. I wish I would have had more of this. Mm-hmm. And that will give us that, that insight into where we should go.
Love that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then continue to gather our feedback throughout the work. So as we're doing the work, getting the feedback on how are we doing, you know, taking that temperature and dip. You know, these are our deep learning goals, these are our strategic goals, but and how are we going to integrate all of this work, these themes, into that strategic work?
Okay, so staying on that theme of feedback, at the end of each of the 12 sessions, we allocated at least 5 minutes to say, well, how is this process for you? Since this was, you know, the first time, to my knowledge, anybody has ever done it this way. I mean, I'm talking about across the US and international sites that use the World Cafe. And so here are some of the things that we heard, some of the themes that we heard. From teachers and staff at the school sites, that they really felt heard, that they felt it was professional and organized, that they, even though they're on the same campus, they talked to people that they didn't really have a chance to talk, you know, have that opportunity. There was a little bit of skepticism of saying, is something really going to happen with this, you know? And so that was a theme actually throughout. And also the fact that people, they felt like because Dr. Bartlett was there listening, not just watching people write, it was like, can I really speak my truth? Can I be transparent? And so her modeling of being approachable as a superintendent, I mean, to me as an outsider really, and as a former parent of this district, it really stood out for me. I thought it was incredible. For parents and families, some of the things that they be able to connect. A number of times in the morning and the evenings, I heard Valley View parents or primary parents say, I've never talked to a high school parent before about what's going on, and vice versa. You know, with secondary parents saying, I got to talk to, you know, from on the other side of the district. I've never talked to a Manzanita person or a parent before, or Canyon View. So there was this nice little knitting of humans, and that's one of the reasons that that image was used as a theme for this, that happened with parents. It also normalized a lot of feelings. Like if I was coming in as a parent with some strong feelings and other people felt that way as well, that felt good. I mean, it felt good for them. Dr. Bartlett framed each session, and she did a thank you at the end, and built one quote from her is, building these connections is critical to the district's continued success. So, so you know, the key topics were part of the questions as far as aspirations and strengths and barriers and top priorities. Priorities, I think, is going to be in your vote right now, because there's all that Dr. Bartlett went over. I'm like, okay, what do you work on first and what do you work on second? That's a lot. So using administrators and staff to help prioritize what would be to work on first. There was the overall sense of importance to dialogue, that it wasn't about coming to a consensus. It wasn't about, after each session, us agreeing what the answers to those questions were. It was an opening up, and dialogue is about opening it up. And then how can we and Dr. Bartlett mentioned, how could we incorporate this in some way for students? That was surfaced several times. And either parents helping students, answer those questions at home so they can be spokespeople for their own children, but involving them directly and giving student voice also. I think that's a marvelous next step. Resilience, despite the coinciding with the security incident, the sessions, we didn't even think about postponing them. Just wanted to move forward with that. And the valuable feedback that was really proactive. It was a highlight of my career, facilitating this, so I just wanted you to know that. Thank you.
So to conclude, this is kind of an ending. I just want to thank again all of our 471 participants, their willingness to share their thoughts openly. Again, even if there was some apprehension, I think that diminished once they got into the process. They forgot I was there, and they just spoke freely, and I wasn't making comments. I just listened. But that they would share those with us has been very valuable. But listening's only the first step. Now we have to move towards some action. But because of their engagement, we're shaping the ideas and we're shaping the future that reflects those ideas. So together, we're shaping the future of our district and ensuring excellence for all of our students. But I can't thank them enough for their openness and the commitment to the process. And the voices are going to continue to guide us. So we're going to continue to listen and continue to use that information and get new information with students and combine that to, work for the betterment. So with that, are there any questions that you have?
I find myself wondering if there's a way to get the broader community involved. And by that, I mean getting feedback from our residents, our voters, who also have a stake in the district, although they may not be parents at the time. Those are the people that vote on our bonds and choose to live in our districts and support our schools. So just something to think about for future, like how do we get all the people that live in our district truly feeling like they have a stake and their voice is being listened to.
Yes. My upcoming article in the Desert Leaf is a thank you to our community, and it's about community engagement and inviting them to become more engaged into our schools and giving them opportunities with a list of how they can become engaged.
Wonderful.
So we're
I love
hoping
that.
that will increase that, and maybe that will give us an opportunity, but that's a very interesting point.
Can I just respond to that too?
Sure.
So I'm a resident and a long time. My children graduated way long ago, 04 and 07. So there was a buzz about this. First of all, a new superintendent after someone who has been a superintendent for Dr. Cameron, 26 years, right? So there was a buzz, and people were wanting to know. I mean, when they saw my name, friends of mine, what's going on there? What's going on there? And it was very, very impressed. So I think that's great to be able to say,
I speak because my daughter graduated in May, and I
yeah.
felt a sense of loss.
Yeah, it's a sense of loss. I know it's hard. But the other thing is that I heard alumni who are parents in your district, in this district. Also, there was a buzz that they talked to friends that have kids in Scottsdale or in other places and say, look at what we're doing, And so, and it's also traveled across the country. So there's school districts in Sacramento that said, ooh, we heard about this, we might want to do this too. And in other counties in New York and in departments of ed at state level. So you've created a model that I think is going to have a greater impact than just this district. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, and I look forward to your upcoming column.
Yes.
So, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So in terms of our work around this table, I heard a few things that I think could involve us. So you mentioned strategic planning. So I don't know something, new strategic goals or new iteration of the strategic plan, might come to us, or not the whole plan, but, some
Yes.
aspect of it. I'm thinking, superintendent's performance goals are obviously, we're listening to what our community wants, and we set the performance goals for you and your administrations. I think that's a way that this will impact our work. Obviously, if there's policies, hiring, hiring recommendations or new policies,
Salary and
hiring
wage.
wages, which we have an executive session this evening to discuss. So I think this
And
is,
I think your commitment to that staffing for the social emotional learning, those are all ways that you have supported that, the new career counselor at the high school, those are all ways that you have supported that work even before some of this has come out. That has been really critical, that it was a positive mention by people because we've already had it in place. So it's been nice.
I appreciate you taking the time to do this and to synthesize it, because I feel like we kind of have a new, I don't know what to call it, like a new backbone, or, there's just a new foundation to turn to when we're talking about what does our community want, from where are our priorities? Yes, what do we value? And also I think it's very validating in many ways. I mean, there are many of the themes that are reflected already in our values, our list of values, and our mission statement. So I think that was very, to me, I felt validated reading this. That we're on the right path, generally speaking.
But there's always room for improvement.
I can add one comment. I'm going to see if this one works since I'm talking to y'all, because that's weird. But first of all, as most of y'all know, this kind of stuff is what I do for a living. I facilitate group discussions, I collect data, design surveys, etc. And I want to compliment you on the methodology and approach. Just reading through and listening through this really sounds like it was a great way to stimulate conversation. Very briefly touched on, but I want to go back to the actual questions that were asked, because I think it was a really, not only were they student-centered, but they were broad enough to allow conversation, but specific enough to stay on track. And I compliment you for that as well.
That was their questions.
Well, nice job. Whoever did it, well done. But all of that and the approach of random selection is super important. I do have one question as part of that I think is answered in here. With random selection also comes just the challenge of, are we sure that we're not just hearing from our greatest cheerleaders, right? You want to get diversity in opinions. Some of what's on the recap slide that talks about normalizing feelings, people being vulnerable, suggests that there was in fact a lot of comfort with not just you're doing great, but also here are some more critical components. But I wanted to hear from you on that and make sure that that was indeed the case.
Yeah, and we did hear, I mean, one of my favorite anecdotes was when we mentioned at one of the parent sessions that this was a randomized process. One of the participants said, I know it was randomized because I was invited, because, she's been very vocal, throughout her career as a parent in CFSD. And so to me, that was really validating, because it's like, this is great because this is who we want here. It was a really great mix of people who lived within the district and outside of the district. We monitored as people RSVP'd what schools they were coming from, and it was a really even split between East Side, West Side, grade levels, and that was encouraging. And it was nice because we were able to invite 1,800 people. That did help bring in a much wider, broader group of people. So it wasn't just the people that we work with all the time and hear from all the time, but there were people we didn't know, and that was terrific to really meet them too.
Well, and the fact that many of them are here tonight to hear, I mean, it really says that they're invested in this work, and that they're interested in continuing wants dialogue with us and interested in what we're going to do. So, thank you.
You know, I'm interested in the feedback that we got regarding modernizing our facilities and resources. That one kind of just surprises me because all of the community support that we have with our bonds and our overrides and our technology bond, and the fact that we have such a robust renewal program that's ongoing and has been as long as I've been associated with the district, which is a really long time, probably as long as you, Tracy. So I'm curious, was there something specific, areas where they felt our facilities or our resources needed like a major overhaul?
I think one of the comments was about the athletics, right? Our athletics, which, you know, we just redid the track.
Right.
We've just, you know, part of it is that we have no more land. We can't expand, so all we can do is modernize and improve.
Modernize what we have.
So I think that's where that was coming from, that maybe some of our, there were some things that I know the high school gym that we're looking to do some modernization of, but I don't think it was any big overhaul because they know we don't have land to, you know, build a new stadium.
Right.
But,
Swimming pool.
but that we just redid our track, you know.
But it's always
Came
part of
from
our
middle
bond.
school.
Yeah, and the middle
Yeah,
schools.
came from the middle school
Came
as
from the
well.
schools. Okay.
Yeah, the middle schools, because they use their multi-purpose room, right?
Right.
Their
Yes.
multi-purpose as their gym.
Right.
So, but we are also working on our middle school tracks right now. So
Right.
we are really responsive to those needs. There's the basketball courts at Sunrise Drive that need some work. So we've prioritized that in our next bond issuance. So we're really responsive to those needs of the athletics upgrades, and we have those on our list to continue to.
This is perfectly dovetailing into the exercise that you're going through right now with
Yes.
inventorying all of the facilities at all the sites
Absolutely.
to determine what that wish list is for a next bond issuance. So
To prioritize. Yes.
Denise and team, huge thanks for your hard work on this. Definitely impressed with it. Like Tom, I work in the industry as well, so this really does stand out as a great example of how to not only solicit but encourage active participation. And I know our community was hungry for that, so I applaud you in leaning into that challenge as well. My question for you is with regards to, you know, what happens next, right? And you were leaning into this a little bit as well, Amy. You know, of course, we have some clear near-term goals, such as, you know, I know you'll be bringing to us your recommendations for the next issuance of the bonds and how those dollars will be used. Obviously, we'll be looking at performance goals, you know, soon and doing a performance evaluation, et cetera. But aside from those things, what I'd really like to ask you about is how do you plan to continue to keep this community involved and updated? There was a fantastic article in the Desert Leaf, I think last edition, or perhaps the one before, that spoke to the listen and learns. But, you know, this isn't a one and done, right? This takes ongoing communication. It's kind of like one of those things of like, be careful what you wish for because you just might get it, right? We've now done it. We've opened up the door. We have to keep talking about it, and we want to talking about it and continue that engagement with our community, not only in terms of informing, you know, from us to them as to what's going on, but also keeping that door open to facilitate two-way communication and dialogue. So with that preamble, my question for you is, what are your plans to continue to engage our community from this point moving on?
We've talked a lot about that. You know, this first listen and learn, we got a lot of information that we want to call and act on. So there's this point where we can't keep getting new information. So we have to look at what we're going to work on now and provide those community updates, provide them opportunities to give us feedback on those updates so that we can continue to refine the work that we're doing based on this first listen and learn. I think including the students and the alumni and then communicating that out to the larger is another area that we can do, so that they are so they can hear what those groups of constituents are interested in as well, and kind of melding it with the information that they've given us. So I think right now it will be a lot of communication as we begin to work through the process, and then soliciting more information from them. That's how I foresee it. Because you can't just keep getting information and not acting.
Exactly.
You have to do some acting.
Exactly. You need to be acting. A lot of stuff ends up in the parking lot otherwise.
Correct. So we don't want to just keep collecting more.
Yeah, absolutely. I would also, depending on how it fits with agenda planning, et cetera, I personally would welcome ongoing updates on this, maybe a couple of times during the year if it fits with agenda planning. This is a really important initiative, and I'm excited to see how it evolves.
We are too. It was grueling. It was grueling. But it was time well spent.
Yes.
Time well spent. But we were exhausted because it was mental. It was the mental challenge of hearing all of these things, and me thinking, okay, what is that going to look like if we do that? And even though I was, not trying to solve problems as I was listening, it's a tendency to do that. So the cognitive load was heavy, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And we all felt it, because you're listening to a lot of input, and you're thinking how to organize that into an action plan as you go. So, but it was well worth it.
And I dare say that the next time might be just that little bit easier because you'll have been through it that once and okay, this is how it all works, right? And have faith in the process, right?
Yeah. And I think, ongoing staff will be, I really didn't feel like they were apprehensive, the staff. They forgot I was there.
Good.
And many of them actually called me over and said, well, what do you think? Can I write this? Yes, write whatever you want. Whatever you want to write.
Absolutely.
There's no right or wrong thing to write. So I think it gave them freedom to express what they really wanted to express.
Which was great too, because we also heard some things that weren't true.
Correct.
And so it was wonderful because Denise was able to address some of those things right then and there. And it also was a great pointer to me on what do I need to do a better job communicating about. Because if we have these false ideas out there, I need to be more clear about this and how can I do a better job of it. And I know this has influenced my work on a daily basis. I think about it all the time now. And it's really invigorating. It's exciting because we're all working towards these really big goals.
Could I ask for clarification on an example of something you heard that was not true?
Open enrollment.
Yes. So, recently the laws have changed on open enrollment, and our staff hasn't kept up on those. They knew old open enrollment laws. And the new law is that if you have space, you must accept. And they didn't know that. So they were talking about some open enrollment practices that they wish we could do, and I was able to interject and say, that's not what the law states that we can. And they accepted that. They went, oh, okay, that makes sense to us then. But they weren't aware of it. So it was just some misinformation that they had, and we could clear that up pretty easily.
Were they making a connection between class size? Because I heard that, you can reduce class size if you just reduce
Yes.
open enrollment. Well, no, you can't.
Right.
For other reasons as well, but.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
you can't. So unless, you can decline an open enrollment application if we can't offer the special services that the
Correct.
student needs. But if there's capacity, then we are obligated. That's my understanding.
That
right?
is correct.
There's
And that's
capacity, then we are
changed in the
obligated.
last couple of years.
Right,
They've evolved.
right. That's a really important piece of information that I think a lot of people don't know.
Right. Well, we also found out that there's some misinformation about the budgeting process for our staff.
Oh.
And so we need to do a better job of communicating about how the budget comes about and what our budget capacity is.
Ah.
And some choices we have to make because we only have so much capacity in our budget. And those choices, you know, just explaining why we made those choices. And, you know, so some of that information I think is really important that we get out to our staff especially, because there's a long list of what we want and there's a very short list of what we can afford.
Yes, yes, yes,
It
yes.
is a really
So,
interesting thought, explaining the administrative recommendation that goes
Yes.
into the budget that we end up approving.
Correct.
You know, where these were the priorities that we infiltrated into our budget document. That's what a
Because
budget document is.
Well,
It's a
and this year we
document
can
of your
say,
priorities.
because we've heard that
Yeah.
through the listen and learn, we heard it loud and clear what a priority for you in our budget process. And I think it's just those communication and that dialogue with our staff and having them understand that will go a long way for them to, you know, have less skepticism about something's not going to happen. Because I put it down there, it should happen.
Right.
And not everything can happen because it was on a Post-it note. But we have to set those priorities.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to the parents who.
Yes.
Thank you all so much for participating. And thank you, Tracy, thank you, Julie. I'll quickly go through the next two agenda items before we close the general meeting this evening. The next item is 5.2, Arizona Legislative and Governmental Activity. This is a standing item in our agenda that allows board members, if we want to, discuss anything that might be happening at the state or federal level that affects our schools. So with that, does anybody have a Prop 123 update?
Just a little bit of movement, bringing the governor's office and the state legislature a little bit closer together. It seems as though the governor's office is backing off a little bit on the, I think it was like a 2% increase they wanted to make over the current draw, the current enhanced draw from the State Land Trust. And she's inching toward them, so it looks like there'll be, hopefully, relatively soon, some resolution that gets placed on a ballot for folks to vote on. So.
What we're really watching, though, is the definition of teacher.
Right?
And then the legislature also has the provision in that the teacher raises are only for the teachers in the top 2 performance classifications. And our belief is when you're a new teacher, you're not going to start off as proficient. And so we shouldn't be penalizing a teacher for being developing when they're new to the profession.
Correct.
So that's a really critical point that I'm watching, because that will be really detrimental to.
Absolutely, and then we'd be
And we have
faced
a
with the
conversation
idea
about
of backfilling that. Yep. Backfilling that because that's not the way our system works.
Right. So their definition of teacher, I like that she wants to expand it to all staff, but those are the 2 pieces of the 1, 2, 3 that I'm really watching closely.
And that is what we did the last time, was backfill.
Yes,
Because it did not include staff,
yes. When we had the
non-teaching.
20% by 2020,
Yeah.
that's what we did.
The only thing I wanted to mention was based on a parent concern that I heard about last week, which is what happens if the Department of Education is shuttered, which appears that might happen. And so I just wanted to share my conversation with Dr. Bartlett, where she confirmed that, you know, basically the Department of Education does 2 things. It provides funds for Title I and IDEA, and it also has the Office of Civil Rights. And I think the expectation is that the funds are not at risk. They may be dispersed through a different agency, but unlikely to be completely. Are you worried about that? You made a face that I thought me. I mean, I guess, you know, we just don't know. We don't know until it happens. It's kind of hard to plan, but I think there's some relative sense that those funds are not at jeopardy. They would just be dispersed a different way, and then of course we don't know
What will
if OCR is going to be moved to a different.
And in our total budget, the federal funding is only about 6%. So it's,
It's still a significant number.
oh,
It
it's
is.
2.9
9.
million.
It's still a significant.
Sure,
significant
but
number.
it's
would hurt to be without
Oh,
it.
absolutely. It would definitely hurt.
At this moment, we have not been informed or have given any kind of guidance that there is going to be any funding shortfall with respect to the Federal Department of Education.
Yep.
And then also, of course, OCR investigates complaints of discrimination against school districts, and obviously we always try to stay away from discriminatory practices, and we'll continue to follow our non-discrimination policies and the law as we understand it to pertain to our jurisdiction. So, anything else about public official? Okay. Thank you. And then finally, agenda planning.
Me? I didn't realize until 10 seconds ago that it's me tomorrow with you.
It is.
I think so. It's on my calendar anyway.
We have it scheduled for 10.
10 a.m. is fine.
Wait, I'm sorry. Are we sure it's you, Eileen?
Well, it's on my calendar. I could have calendared it
It is.
incorrectly.
It is. No.
It is me?
That
Okay,
is correct.
That's fine.
Okay.
Will you be
Yeah,
in person?
In person, sure. Yeah.
Thank you. At this point, we are going to move into executive session for the purpose of discussing employee salary, wage, and benefit proposals for the next school year. What that means for those of you in attendance is that we thank you for being here and ask you kindly to leave and for our closed door session. And I just want to assure those of you who are present or maybe listening in that once our executive session concludes, we move back into our regular session only to adjourn the meeting. No further discussion or action will take place in the public meeting this evening. So with that, I thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Thank you for coming.
I'm gonna.
Let's see, how about a motion to move into exec
Motion.
session, or do you want to take
Can I
a
have a
quick
quick
break
potty
first
break?
and then we'll come